It's reported that while he was sculpting the David, Michelangelo was visited by the mayor of Florence, Piero Soderini. Piero Soderini was a well-known art patron and also considered himself a bit of a connoisseur with a very keen eye. Now, when he entered Michelangelo's workroom, he stood underneath, gazing upward at this masterpiece, the David, and he admitted that the David was just breathtaking. However, from his perspective, he felt that the nose was asymmetrical. It was disproportionately big for the rest of the features on the face and looked quite odd. Now, Michelangelo knew that the reason why the nose appeared to look that way to Soderini is because he was standing directly under it. So Michelangelo, upon hearing this, motioned for Soderini to come follow him. Now, he took Soderini up the scaffold. Now, on his way up the scaffold, Michelangelo passed by a hammer and chisel, and he grabbed his hammer and chisel, as well as purposely collecting a bit of dust upon his fingertips. Now, when he got up to the statue, he instructed Soderini to stand back so he can get a better vantage point. And Michelangelo went to work with the hammer and the chisel. Now, as he was hammering and chiseling, he wasn't really changing anything with the nose. See, Michelangelo knew that the nose was perfect. It was just the vantage point that Soderini was examining the nose from that made it appear off. But he didn't say a word. He just went to work making it look like he was chiseling away at the nose, and very so often allowing just a little bit of dust to drop from his fingertips onto the ground, giving all the appearances of working very, very diligently on the nose, taking into account Soderini's instructions. Now, when he stopped, Soderini looked at the nose once again, which had not been altered, except for from his perspective, and said that it was masterful. It was absolutely perfect. Now, Michelangelo could have argued. He could have simply brought Soderini up the scaffold, and viewing from the different vantage point showed him how perfect his nose was. See, Soderini considered himself a connoisseur of art. Michelangelo understood in order to do that, he would have had to offend Soderini. He would have had to prove to him that he was actually wrong. And why not? Michelangelo was the greatest sculptor of his and perhaps even of our time as well. But he understood something about psychology. He understood that if he could validate Soderini, not only would he make his point because the nose wouldn't be altered, but rather than make an enemy, rather than break rapport, he would instantly befriend Soderini, who now felt that his input had been taken into account and had been partly responsible for the masterpiece of the David. Michelangelo forever endeared himself to Soderini. See, if you take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, after all of our physiological needs have been met, safety and security is the foremost need, ahead of all the others. That's just not physical safety and security, it's emotional safety and security as well. Rodney Cohen, one of the co-founders of this very company, makes a recommendation. He says, imagine yourself walking into the gym and you see somebody doing a bicep curl and they're just swaying all over the place. Well, you could walk over to that person and point out the error of their ways, or you could say something like, "Hi, would you like me to show you a better way of doing that?" which invalidates whatever thought process they had prior to coming into the gym, which led to that form in the first place. Or you can acknowledge to that person, wow, you know, what you're doing is engaging the superficial backline. And not very technically, but very briefly, go over the superficial backline and how important it is to engage the entire myofascial system within an exercise. And then you can compliment them and say, well, where did you learn how to do that? See, wherever somebody learns how to exercise, whether it was from books, whether it was a coach from their past, whether it was a friend they trust, whether it was complete ignorance and they saw somebody else that they don't even know doing something from across the gym, and this person didn't even know that this member happened to be stalking them for the past 3 weeks, they're doing what they're doing because they believe it's the very best solution that they have. So therefore, there's a sense of emotional security, safety tied up into that. When you invalidate someone, you take their safety and security away, and psychologically, it's not safe for them to listen to you. So no matter how rational you are, as a matter of fact, the more technically competent you seem in contradicting something that they're emotionally attached to as a sense of security, the harder they'll fight back. So when we align ourselves with other people's thought processes, rather than combating them, trying to prove to them that we know more, or we're right, which necessitates that they're wrong, they feel as if they're part of the recommendations we've given them. So if they contradict us, they contradict themselves, which is very hard for people to do. So if you get somebody feeling good about their choice in bicep curls, you now have rapport with this person, you can say to this person, well, how do you know that what you're doing is effective? And let's say they have no clue. They say, well, I feel it. You can say, well, that's great. Have you ever tried a variation where you didn't sway so much? And have them maybe slow down their repetitions, assuming, that their swaying is not something deliberate. It's beyond their level of control to decelerate, stop, and redirect the movement. So after we change their tempo, after we change their posture, their form, if they feel it more, well, based on their own assertions, we just added value to the exercise and made it better by aligning with them, not against them.